This is the most crowded island in the world, Santa Cruz del Islote, Colombia, home to more than 800 people crammed into a space of 12,000 square meters. How do people survive in Santa Cruz del Islote? What are some of the daily challenges faced by the more than 150 families living here? I visited to find out. Our adventure starts in Santiago de Tolú, a small beach town in the Caribbean. We take a 1-hour boat ride early in the morning, heading to the San Bernardo archipelago, where Santa Cruz is located. Let's just say the weather was less than ideal. This is life in Santa Cruz del Islote, the world's most crowded island. Over 800 people packed in one tiny island. Life is very crazy here. Let me show you around. Santa Cruz is an artificial island. Back in the 1860s, a group of fishermen from Cartagena and Tolú built this island in the coral reef, using rocks, sediment, and garbage. They chose this spot because of its abundance of sea life and because it had no mosquitoes. Over the years, the island kept expanding as more and more families arrived and made this place home. The island was kept nameless until one day, as the story goes, the tide brought a cement cross to the island's shore, and the locals named the island Santa Cruz, or Holy Cross. The population has kept expanding ever since. There are no motorcycles or cars here. In fact, it takes you no more than 2 minutes to go from one end of the island to the other. The island has one school, one church, one medical center, 4 grocery stores, and an aquarium. The aquarium hosts dozens of sharks and 8 sea turtles, and is one of the biggest revenue sources for the community. As you can see, all the streets are flooded because it was raining all morning. And I decided to bring shoes because I didn't know it was gonna rain. My luck. This is the main plaza. So there's no cemetery in the island, so if someone dies, they have to be transported into Tintipan Island, which is right next door. But they do a little procession here in this main street. This is the main street, basically. Quite a small space, and there's 200 families living here, so we're all packed together.
¿Dónde hay una foto?
Está tomando video. Hey, patacones con queso. These boys are taking me to the one local church they have here in the island. As you can see, there's not much space available. Houses are right next to each other, and there's very little room for privacy. Since there is no football field here, the boys must play ball wherever they can, be it in the alleyway or next to the aquarium. Esta. Ahí está cerrada. ¿Cuándo la abren? En la noche. This is the only church in the island, Movimiento Misionero Mundial, and it opens in the nights. It's very small, so yeah, we can't go inside, but yeah, it's quite humble. The local kids were very eager to show me around and to show off their dance moves. They didn't even ask me for money in the end, which was a pleasant surprise, but I still gave them some cash so they could buy some snacks. Talking about snacks, the local ladies were preparing some fresh cocada, which is a traditional Colombian dessert made of coconut. Of course, I couldn't turn down the offer. There's only like 4 stores around the island, but they're all friendly to each other, you know, not too competitive. And they have to import everything, of course. The people here mainly sustain themselves by fishing and, of course, by tourism. They get a lot of tourists that come to hear about the story of the island. It's such a fascinating place. There is one small pharmacy, one small medical outpost here in the island. But if you have an emergency and you need a doctor, you have to go to the mainland, which is 1 hour away. So yeah, do not have an emergency in this island. One of the biggest challenges in the island is waste management. This island generates a lot of trash, especially with all the tourists coming to visit. Since there is no space to bury the trash here, all the waste must be transported to the neighboring island of Tintipan, and then to Cartagena. You will see some plastic floating around, but efforts are being made to incentivize the population to keep the community clean. Of course, it's easier said than done. A few years ago, the Japanese government donated some solar panels to the island, giving them electricity during the night. Drinking water remains the most precious commodity, since all of it has to be imported. Rainwater is also collected in these giant blue containers. Despite the challenges, the residents of Santa Cruz seem to be quite happy. I got the chance to interview this man who actually moved to Santa Cruz after marrying a girl who was born here.
Y me vine con ella acá y ya más o menos yo como dentro de 4 años y medio a 5 años promedio está acá viviendo ya con ella. Y producto de eso ya tenemos una niña que ya tiene 2 años ya, gracias a Dios.
Oh, ¿está creciendo aquí?
Sí, sí, está creciendo ahora.
¿Extrañas algo de la ciudad a veces?
Pues lo único que extraño en la ciudad es mi mamá. Lo único. Yo siento que es lo único porque, bueno, y aunque obviamente la ciudad es más grande y hay muchas cosas más en las cuales uno se puede divertir, por lo menos yo salgo a la cancha. O sea, aquí se puede jugar, pero obviamente no es lo mismo que allá en la ciudad, ¿sí me entiendes?
¿Y qué te gusta de vivir aquí?
No, a mí me gusta todo.
Sí.
Sí, obviamente me gusta todo. Es que es una maravilla vivir rodeado de mar. Esto acá es muy pequeño y tú sales a la puerta de la casa o te asomas en la ventana y ahí ves más de una vez. Chévere, cualquiera quisiera vivir en esto, cualquiera. Y siempre hay música, siempre. No hay un día que no vaya a escuchar música aquí. Siempre está el gospel y siempre hay gente también echándose la chelita.
Nunca en el mundo del deporte se han visto estas clases de presiones.
Amigos, pero que no salga
Miren, miren, miren. Wow. Eso. Toda una leyenda. ¿Qué hacen para divertirse?
Juega fútbol.
¿Fútbol? ¿Dónde se juega fútbol aquí?
La canchita esa que está ahí.
¿Aquí?
Por ahí hay una niña.
Ah. Entonces juegan fútbol y...
El que se vuelve una leyenda, él es el hijo de Neymar.
Ah, el hijo de Neymar.
Sí.
Ahí está. I also got to interview Hernan, the owner of one of the 4 grocery stores in the island. He spent much of his youth studying and working in the mainland, but decided to return to Santa Cruz, which he now calls home. ¿Qué le gusta más de vivir aquí?
No, aquí no, lo que más nos gusta porque es la tranquilidad. Aquí de la isla es la tranquilidad, no, uno cualquiera te puede brindar también un plato de comida. Aquí así es, aquí a la isla la convivencia es así.
¿Y para la electricidad?
Electricidad ahora tenemos luz. Antes teníamos luz las 24 horas casi, pues. Pero ahora los paneles están dañados. Ahora tenemos nada más la planta que trabaja de 6 a 6 de la mañana. De una planta diésel.
Sí.
Sí.
De 6 de la tarde
A 6 de la mañana, sí.
Entonces ahorita ya no hay luz.
Sí, ya hasta ahí.
Ah, bueno.
Sí.
Most of the locals I got to talk to said they value the peace in the island. There is no need for police here, and all the quarrels are solved between the residents. For entertainment, people listen to music, drink beer, play dominoes, and there is cockfighting every Saturday. Well, Herman was such a nice guy. He didn't let me pay for my Coke. He was like on the house. This feels like a big family. Like, it's such a tight-knit community. Everyone knows each other. It's been a wonderful experience. They had warned me at the beginning that some people would not be down to be interviewed because there has been a lot of YouTubers that have come to the island and maybe they've given like a negative image of the island, saying like, oh, this place is like a slum, it's crowded. And it's a bit crowded, but not as much as I expected. It's such a lovely place, such an interesting part of Colombia, and I'm super glad I came. As always, thank you for watching.